Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, God, so much. Our hearts are overfilled with gratitude. We are so grateful just to have relationships with one another, to have people like us in other places who care about children. God, that's a blessing. We know that. I pray for unity in our group. I pray for relational conversations and building to take place this weekend, but to continue on throughout the rest of the year and the years to come. I pray that every person in this room has a new phone number before they leave. God, you are so great and so merciful. We are just honored to be your children. But to be able to then love and serve your children, the children of your church, is a blessing and a privilege. And we don't take that lightly. We know that apart from you, we can't do anything, and we don't want to. We don't want to do anything apart from you, God. Help us to only say things that build up your kingdom today. Help us to only say things that glorify your name. God, I pray that if there are any unanswered questions, Father, that you will bring those to the surface so that we can help support each other today. I pray for those who are traveling, especially those who are on planes right now. God, please protect them, keep the angels around them. I want to say a special prayer for the children that are represented in this room, the children of each of the churches that are in this room, Father. Thank you for those children. Thank you for those souls. Thank you for the privilege of even working with those little souls. And I also want to thank you, God, just for the hearts of those who made the effort to be here. We love you, God. We pray all this in your Son's name. Amen.
So as you've seen a little bit here and there, you've seen some of us get up and share. You saw us introduce ourselves in the beginning, if you were here in the beginning of the conference. But just in case you weren't here, because some of you guys had to work, the task force, the Children's Ministry Task Force, is one segment of the Youth and Family Service team. So basically, several years ago, we started the Children's Ministry Task Force, but we didn't really have the backing of the churches. If you asked about a Children's Ministry Task Force to a leader in most of the kingdom, they said, "What?" because they didn't even really know we existed. And so we asked the elder service team, "Can we have a home?" We don't have a home. And they said, "Yes, you're part of Youth and Family," which we really were, but they didn't know it yet. And so, because they had been spending their years focusing on the teen ministry, they started the ministry, the youth and family ministry, but really what youth and family meant was teens and their parents. Okay, so it really didn't mean what it means now. Now, in the last 4 years or so, it's truly become a cradle to campus ministry. And through those ministries, we're really looking at how globally, and we talked about the Barna and doing that information, which I thought was great last night. But really, how do we transition our kids from infancy all the way through children's ministry, into the middle school, high school ministry, and then on to campus? Because we know even after they leave our teen ministry, they're very vulnerable in the campus ministry. For those of us who've had kids that have gone through campus, we know what that's like and how hard it is for some of them, and how some of them have even had a stigma attached to them as a kingdom kid coming into campus, as if they're not committed or they're not really a disciple. And we want to change that. We want to graduate our kids from the teen ministry into the campus ministry strong. We want to graduate our kids from the middle school to the teen ministry strong. Strong in the faith, and from the children's ministry into the middle schools, and every classroom in between, is that we build just a strong, a God-focused, Jesus-focused, love-focused ministry all the way through. And so I'm just grateful again for each one of you guys. Not all our task force is here. I know Tina's at the computer. And so some of them had to fly back. Bridget flew back. I'm not sure where Ivana is. But these women work tirelessly. We worked on this conference. We worked on the Orlando conference together. So we've been in existence for 10 years? 10 plus years. And so this conference is a culmination of over 10 years of collective trying to really help bridge the gap between all of the ministries. And so I just want to say thank you to these women, but also thank you to you guys. Because a lot of you guys are not paid, not on staff, coming on your own dime, taking time off work, and that you guys are the heroes here. You guys are the ones that have really poured your heart and soul into the kids in your ministry. And for that, I want to say thank you.
Okay, so our goal for this time is to try to be as helpful to you as possible. So what would be helpful to us is for you to start thinking about questions you might have, things that maybe we didn't touch on, or if you didn't make it to a certain class, or if there are certain aspects that you want to learn more about. We're going to have a time of Q&A towards the second half of our time together, and we want that to be helpful. So while you're sitting there, try to kind of think, something that maybe still applies to the room, but if it's specific to your space, that would be awesome. What we want to do is start off talking about curriculum. How many of us use curriculum? Right, all of us, right? That's great. Curriculum is awesome. Curriculum is a tool, right? It's just a tool. It's not the word. It's not God's word. But good curriculum really well utilizes God's word. And so we know that different churches use different curriculums. And to be honest, there is not one right curriculum. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, we don't do either of the ones that are being highlighted. It doesn't mean it's not the right one. But for those who are interested in learning about other curriculums, or who are maybe considering trying a different curriculum, we wanted to give you some options. And so Tina, in just a minute, is going to demo Orange curriculum. That's what Tina uses in Triangle. And then I'm going to demo Dig In. So I'll tell you, are you getting set up, Tina? I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dig In while she's getting set up, and then I'll hand the mic to her. Dig In is owned by a company called Group Publishing, and a lot of us are familiar with Group. They also put out, every year, they put out 3 different versions of VBS. One is an easy VBS curriculum, one is a Holy Land adventure, one is a weekend VBS. We're going to talk about VBS later, but just so you know, they're the same company. Group Publishing puts out easy VBS and Dig In. What I like about Dig In is that it has modules with differentiated learning. So some of us are educators and know what that means, and some of us are like, what did she just say? Differentiation is when we teach to the whole child all different styles of teaching, so that every child is taught to, not just auditory learners. So we have kinesthetic options that involve, whole body learning. We have visual learning. So there's all different modules that differentiate, okay? So that's what I love about Dig In. In just a minute, I'm going to go where Tina is and pull it up and show you what Dig In is and how lessons are built and what I like about it. But like I said, it's not perfect. I will say I don't have to edit it for doctrine, which is a blessing. In fact, I can't even remember a time. Now, if I use their easy VBS curriculum, I do have to edit Thursdays, because on Thursdays they pray Jesus into their heart. But besides that, I've never had to, because Thursdays is the message of the cross, and that's every year. Okay, so that's Dig In and Orange. Are you ready to go, Tina? Okay, so Tina's going to talk to you about Orange, what she likes about it, how she builds her lessons, what made her choose Orange, what's the concept behind Orange, if she has to edit it at all, how expensive is it. Tina works with the Triangle Church. Do you want to tell them a little bit about your setting? How many kids you have?
Hey, I work in the Triangle Church, which is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. We average about 60 kids in attendance to our children's ministry a week. We have a lot more than that attend total, but all at once, about 60 a week. We've been using the Orange curriculum for about, as long as I've been there, so about 2 years or so. We were able to do a trial, so I highly recommend if you ever want to consider a curriculum, look in if they offer a trial, because we were able to do a trial for a little while. I think it was a 30-day trial that gave us an opportunity to check out what we thought of it and then go from there. I got a lot of feedback from the teachers, even from some of the kids, what they thought, and from the parents, and that kind of helped leadership decide if they thought it was worth the money that we were spending on Orange, because prior to this, I'm not even sure the name, we spent about $100 a year on curriculum before we started using this, and I really had to pitch to our leadership that having great quality curriculum makes all the difference. So it was an investment to spend a lot more money on curriculum, but it also sets our teachers up for success, because the teachers get a chance to have such a thorough lesson plan that they don't have to think up what to make or what to say. There's even basically like scripts, not that I want them to read directly from the paper, because then that doesn't feel like it's coming from the heart. But if you have teachers who aren't really confident in teaching, I really like this curriculum because it allows some help for that. So we use 2 different portions of Orange. This that you're looking at right here is our preschool curriculum, and this is the themes that they have. There's a big theme every month. There's a memory verse every month, and then there are Bible stories tailored to that theme. Sometimes the ones that you see for preschool, you're like, what does that theme have to do with anything? Last November, it was a donut theme, and everybody was like, what? And it was a little pun. It was do not forget to thank God, and it was really cute, and the kids loved it. So they call their preschool curriculum First Look, and you have to pay separately for if you want a preschool curriculum. There's also different tiers. So we use the starter package for preschool, but then I'm going to show you over here, 252 Kids is what they call their elementary and preteen curriculum. I will emphasize that it does include preteens, so if you wanted to use it in like a middle school type setting, you could. We use this for our kindergarten through 5th graders at our church. Middle school kind of does their own thing, but they have the opportunity to use it. So 252 Kids is the elementary curriculum. Their lesson plans have the same structure every week, which I love. There's a portion that is focusing on practicing their monthly memory verse. There's a portion that is teaching the Bible story. So we have a media package. They watch videos that teach the Bible story, but not just the Bible story. It really applies it to the kids' lives, which I absolutely love. The kids love it. And there's different videos for preschool and elementary. So I'll show you, we're currently in November, so it's shout out, who have you thanked today? There's always a virtue that they're working on. And this is kind of the hub. They always provide this video that you can share with your teachers that gives them the big picture of what they're learning for the entire month, so that they can see what's going to be taught over the course of that month. What Bible stories are they going to cover, and what kinds of principles are they teaching the kids based on those Bible stories, and how are they tying it all together to the virtue that they're learning. Basically, what I love to say about Orange is I absolutely love it. It does take a little bit of work because Orange provides so much content. I look at that as a positive thing. Depending on your ministry, you might be like, I don't have time or energy or, resources to pare down the curriculum. I think they give you too much to do in the amount of time that we have in our Sunday service, but I have learned over time what pieces to take out that just there's no time for. And the most important pieces that we fit in every single week is the memory verse activity, the Bible story review activity, the life application activity, which I think is the biggest, most important part. Like, what does this have to do with me? Yeah, cool, that happened in the Bible, but how can I apply this in my life as an elementary school student? And then a prayer activity. So they provide like what they call an early arriver and like a welcome activity, we just don't have time for those. So I switch it up and I move the memory verse as the first thing that they practice at the beginning. And similarly to what Melissa shared, it's really great because there's so much variety in meeting the needs of different kids. Not every kid wants to do a craft every week. I was very clear that I didn't want them to be doing just like coloring pages. I was like, what are they learning from doing a coloring page? I really wanted it to be active learning. So their lesson plans, which I can pull one of them up while I'm talking. Their lesson plans provide small group activities. I'll pull up second and third grade. So they do a lot of games. They do a lot of sometimes science experiments, different things, so that you meet the kids where they're at and that everybody kind of gets their needs met in different ways and different activities to engage them. So that was what I loved most about the curriculum. It felt very engaging. But as you can see on the side here, it talks about what was their Bible story, what was their bottom line. That's what they learned for the week. Their monthly memory verse, their monthly virtue, and their basic truth. So these early arriver and opening activities are the ones that I cut every week because there's just not enough time for them. But after they watch the video, they do a Bible story review. And then they do a life application activity. And then they do, I move the memory verse up. So this memory verse activity would have been the first thing they do when they arrive in the classroom. And then there's a pray and dismiss activity. There are a fair amount of materials needed for the curriculum. It depends on the week. But the curriculum is very, very clear about what those materials are. And I honestly have not had a lot of trouble shifting things if I felt like this is a lot of materials for this activity. Do I really want to spend the money to get these things? Usually if I was buying them, it's stuff I can use again, so I don't mind investing in it. But if it's something that I'm like, this is kind of a waste, I don't really have much trouble shifting it to still do that activity, but just a little easier. But I'm happy to answer any questions about it. I know it's a lot of information. They also can provide for you, if you look into the curriculum, what they call their scope and cycle. I tried really hard to find it for you in time to share with you, but I couldn't find it. It was trying to have me download it, but I can send it to you if you would prefer. It breaks down what they cover in the preschool curriculum for 2 years, and then what they cover in the elementary curriculum for 3 or maybe it's 4 years, I can't remember. All of the virtues, all of the Bible stories, like a big long list in one document so that you can get a big picture of what the curriculum is going to cover. Oh, it's based on Luke 2:52, right? Luke? Sorry. I think it's Luke. It's Jesus grew in wisdom and power and stature and favor with God, that one. That's what the title of 252 is, and that's just what they call their elementary and preteen curriculum.
Perfect. Yeah. Great job. Does anybody have any questions for Tina about Orange curriculum? And if you want to marinate on it, you can also add them later. Yeah? Price point.
Price is really difficult to do, and I'll tell you why. But I will say the curriculum is, the company is really good about figuring out what your church needs. So they base pricing off of if you want a starter package or a premium package. I have a mixture of both. I have a lot of elementary kids, so I have the premium package for elementary. I have the starter package for preschool. And within that, they ask you about how many kids. And so depending on the size, the price is lower or higher. And then you have options with the media package, which I was going to show you. They have their media package provides you with all the videos, but then you can also, if you want to share the videos in an online way, which is really not necessary because they're posted on YouTube. If you wanted to do that, you have to pay extra for licensing. So it's just really difficult. I would say we pay about, for our size church, I think we pay about $2,000 a year. We have about 60 kids total in our children's ministry. but there are different options. So if that sounds too high, there are different ways they can work with you. So that was just what worked best for what I was looking for.
Okay, we're gonna keep moving. Maybe we can take that one later on. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna jump into Dig In here real quick. Dig In. How many of you use Dig In? Just out of curiosity. Okay, so some of you already know about this. So you're probably not going to listen. That's okay. Dig In. Okay, so here's what your screen looks like when you go to Dig In. You can choose. There are multiple different types of programs within Dig In. So you can see there's the Bible in 1 year. The Heart of God is an option. The Life of Jesus is one. I don't know where all of them are listed, but we have gone through a cycle. So we do each one for a year, and then it starts kind of back over type thing. So let's say I'm going in as a teacher. I'm going to go to Lesson Builder, which is right here at the top. Now, I encourage all my teachers, my lead teachers, build their own lessons. And that's because within their classroom, they know those children the best. So what I'm going to see here is there's many options. Right now, we're finishing the Bible in 1 year, and then we will transition into the Life of Jesus next. So I've already paid for Life of Jesus to come next. You build your classrooms, so it's all geared towards the proper age. So for example, right now I'm in a grade 1 classroom. That means all my modules will be grade 1 appropriate for those children. So kids in kindergarten are not learning things that a 4th grader should learn, and 4th graders are not learning things that pre-K kids would learn. What you see on the left side are drag and drop modules that are age specific to a 1st grade classroom within that theme. So for example, this particular week is lesson 1, Genesis. God created Adam and Eve. You've got your monthly memory verse right there. And then you might say, okay, I'm teaching grade 1. Those kids really love to be active. So you can look over here on the left side. You see all my activity blocks. So I might drag and drop a high energy game. Notice with that green highlight, this is hard to see. Let me make this a little bigger. They've got this like uber fancy setup over here. I'm trying to make this bigger for y'all. Let me see if I can just zoom in a little. Is that better? My eyes are not what they once were. Okay. So what you're going to do here is drag and drop the modules that work for your kids. So if you're teaching a 4th and 5th grade boys class, all day high energy game. And you take them outside so they don't destroy your building. If you're teaching a preschool class, you're going to drag and drop the preschool puppet, and it's going to give you a full script for that preschool class. So you get to determine what meets the needs. I remember we had a group of 1st grade kids who were super into STEM. We did object lesson every week. It's experiments and visual learning opportunities. So what I love about this curriculum is that you're hitting every type of learner. You're not just hitting the kids who sit and listen well, the auditory learners. You're hitting the visual learners. You're hitting the kinesthetic learners. You're hitting every type of kid. And some curriculums don't do that. So that's one of the things I love about Dig In. Also, this is really nice for our children's worship leader. She can drag and drop the music videos. The Talk About It video is going to be a video of a kid somewhere in the world talking about the concept for that week. So you might hear from kids from Kenya talking about how God created Adam and Eve and how that connects to their lives. So there's a sense of broader audience outside of just their local church. They're getting to hear from kids talking about this topic. And sometimes it's like claymation. And you're like, okay, that was crazy. But oftentimes the Talk About It videos are the kids' favorite part. So our children's worship leader can do those two things with the kids. If you don't have AV stuff, then you're just setting up one projector, one screen. Everybody uses that for that time. So it's a drag and drop thing. One thing that I really love that I'm going to show you is the take-home sheet. Every week, let's hope that this works. Every week you have the option of having a take-home sheet. And so this is something I require all my teachers to use. That way, when a parent picks up their child, they're getting a family devotional that connects to the curriculum the kids learned that week. Pre-created for you, already put together family devotionals that match every week's curriculum. I love that. I love the opportunity to get into homes and show parents what the kids are learning. Of course, I never used this, so it's taking a million years to verify. But basically, it's going to be an already created sheet. It's going to have the scriptures the kids learned that week. It's going to have the memory verse, and it's going to have a family devotional. Also, when we use these music videos, I'm not going to wait on this, but I think you can picture what I'm saying. When we use the music videos, it has the exact links right there. So my children's worship leader doesn't have to go hunting, and most of them are all available pretty easily. It's going to open right up to the videos that were created. So all the songs match the theme for that Sunday. They're not random. So the kids are walking around singing music that connects to what the topic for that day is, which extends their learning, especially for kids who love music. So we've got 3 songs every Sunday, all different songs that create our children's worship experience. We've got videos, we've got puppetry, we've got high energy game, low energy game. Deeper Bible is great for really analytical kids who really want to understand like the Old Testament connection to what's going on, or things that, if they can handle that. When we went into COVID, we had this module, Core Bible at Home, where I posted every week activities for families to do with their kids. It's also great for families who are looking for more for at home. So once I get my lesson the way I want it, like right now it's an hour and 5 minutes. That might be more time than you can prepare for or whatever. You preview what you have, and then you can go ahead and publish it. Let's say I like what my lesson looks like. This is what a lesson would look like. The top is going to have all the supplies. Down here is going to give you, oh boy, I'm doing fancy stuff with this computer. Down here is going to have an actual script. So for a young campus student who's never taught a child and doesn't know how to do anything related to children yet, it gives them a script. God created people to do special things, so it gives them everything they could need. So you just need a willing heart, and you can have a great lesson. So once you've published the lesson, you come up to the top, and you've got your published lessons all in one place, hopefully. So this is cool. My teachers are on top of things. Look at this. They've got all their lessons from the last couple of months. So this isn't a pipe dream, folks. Doing curriculum every week. It's not a pipe dream. I always get, an evangelist who's teaching or an elder's wife who's like, I have a message for the children on my heart. And I'm like, no, we have a curriculum. Well-meaning, and I love them so much, but we want our kids to learn specific principles. So this isn't a pipe dream to do curriculum every week, okay? This right here is you can access, oh, look, my take-home page finally loaded. So throughout the week, talk about worship with your kid. Look through your plans for tomorrow. Write your ideas on a calendar. This is all stuff that connects to what they did that Sunday. And you can edit those. They don't want me to save that on this. So then you've got a Word document, a PDF, or preview. The campus teachers love that they can just, PDF it on their phones. They don't have to print anything. The reason I love Dig In, as I've already mentioned, is that it's very differentiated. It really helps kids connect with their specific learning styles, but it is also very low prep. You saw me create a lesson in, 5 minutes, 6 minutes? It did not take me very long. I can take that lesson into my resource room Sunday after church, pull the pipe cleaners, pull the cotton balls, go into the Dollar Tree, get my 2 supplies, and I'm done. So I'm trying to, in my program, I'm only getting on the stage because this is being recorded. So people at home. I'm really trying to get my teachers to focus on relationships. I don't want my teachers spending a lot of time carefully reading curriculum, because I find that they end up being less effective because they don't feel as confident when they're not free to just get to know kids. So we're going to transition. If the team wants to come up, we're going to start taking questions in just a second. Cindy is going to tell you a little bit about a curriculum that has been a little bit more low prep, I'd say, and a little bit more cost efficient. I didn't talk about cost, and I should. The way Dig In works is they do it based on how many children are in your program. So if you have 0 to 50 kids, they charge you an amount. If you have 50 to 100, and it's all posted on their website. If you decide to go the group publishing route, we have a great relationship with one of the ladies who work there, and she will send you some free stuff. So let me know, and I can help you get connected. The other thing I would say about Dig In is that it transitions really nicely for our VBS, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. The format for VBS matches the format for their Sundays. So if you get comfortable with one, it's easy to do the other. The one thing I will say, and this stays between us, okay? Don't use a curriculum you don't love. If you don't love the curriculum, it doesn't matter how fancy it is. It doesn't matter how special, some veteran teacher thinks it is. If it's not working for your kids, let it go. Like, really. I also don't think it makes sense to reinvent the wheel. Like, trying to build lessons every Sunday is not feasible. I work full-time in children's ministry. I'm a 40-hour employee. I don't write lessons every week. It would be a waste of my time. These lessons are awesome. So don't reinvent the wheel. Use what works for your kids. Cindy, tell us about what you love.
I might get booed off the stage. Okay, I think it's important to know, first of all, though, are there churches here represented that don't have the funds to purchase a higher priced curriculum? Or is there churches here that are small that have 1-room, 2-room classrooms and you have multiple kids in those classrooms? Okay, then I'll speak in that just shortly. We did do Faith Weaver, which is from Group Publishing for a long time, and I did really like it, and I would really like Dig In. And my successor, the day after I retire, this might be the first thing that they change after this after this presentation. But after COVID, what I was looking for was something that wasn't, and I think a lot of it's my age and growing up in the traditional Church of Christ. Okay, let's be honest. So, multi-generational, that's right. So what we use, and I didn't prepare for this, so all-in-one Sunday school program, and it is from Group. And it's an older curriculum that one session will do character, one will do Old Testament, New Testament, whatever. It has several different books. But I've done it since COVID because when we came back to COVID, we had multiple kids in the one room, and I kept it. And it's for a lot of reasons. I feel the curriculum is adequate because I think you can do a lot with curriculum on your own. You can beef it up. It has ideas. Oh, there you go. Thank you. You can. I've changed up our rotation, and so we don't teach a quarter at a time, because that was wearing on our teachers as well. And I did realize, being here, that I really possibly could require more of teachers and require more and have higher expectations. Okay, and so that being said, I've got to revisit that. These books are $25 a piece, and you need for a quarter. So with $100, you have a curriculum that teaches multi-classrooms and are very good at the topics that you prepare. Very minimal preparation, take-home page, mostly have a craft. I do run off, I'm full-time, so I do run off the curriculum for the teachers and put it in folders and give it to them so that they have that. So it's a choice. And we all have choices of where the board wants us to spend our money, where we can spend our money. Orlando Church, I think, would afford anything that I put before them. But I just haven't revisited after COVID, and it works for us. So I just wanted to offer that up for churches that have a struggle with their financial ability to pay, or if you have kids from 0 or 2 or whatever to 5th grade, because it helps the older kids interact with the younger kids. And it gives those directions of, if you got a 5th grader, okay, now you put them with a 2nd grader, and they're helping them read something, helping them do their craft. So it's very beneficial that way. But I have used all of this throughout time. Thank you.
And Cindy does a great job with it. Okay, so I'm going to quickly do VBS. For those who don't know, it's Vacation Bible School. You do not have to do a VBS. However, I will tell you, it is the most evangelistic thing that we offer all year long is our VBS. We get kids who come out from the community. We get kids from our kids' schools. We get whole soccer teams that all register. We have done everything we can at North River to provide this service for free. And if you can do it, even if it means scaling back, make it free. Make it free. It's a great service to families. If you have to charge, keep it minimal. I'm going to show you 2 different options. Can somebody drive the computer for me? Can somebody just tap toggle. I want to show you two different options. For years, I did group publish. I need to get back up here so kids at home, so the people watching can see. For years, I did the group publishing because when I inherited children's ministry, that's what they did, easy VBS or a Holy Land adventure. And it felt like VBS took over our entire church. And it totally wore me out. It used so many resources, so many volunteers, so much money that I ended up deciding to walk away from that process. But if you'll go to, so let me just tell you, group offers an easy VBS, and I think that's the wrong adjective. It's not that easy, but it is step by step. It does give lots of guidance, and every year they have a new theme. Next year is scuba. They've already released next year, diving deep into friendship with God. So there's 3 different ways you could do a VBS. You could do a weekday, like a 9 to 1, 9 to 12, something like that, VBS. You could do an evening VBS, maybe like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and like kind of bridge your midweek scenario. You could do a weekend VBS for those who have communities where both parents are working and you're not going to get that many volunteers. Maybe it starts Friday night, maybe you have a Saturday workshop, and then your Sunday service is geared around towards your VBS. However you do VBS, do one. There's no reason not to. Even if you only have you and your spouse or you and your friend, you can pull off a VBS, especially if you have screened Sunday school teachers who are willing to do it. So even if you start small, I think VBS is an amazing evangelistic opportunity. So group publishing has their easy VBS, and like I said, it ain't easy. But they're great. They're fantastic. They give you a packet or a booklet for every leader. So you have like a station leader, a snack leader, and all the snacks are themed. And that, if you're doing scuba, there's going to be some kind of scuba snack every day, and it is involved. So the bigger churches, go for it. If you can do it, go for it. They also provide a Holy Land adventure. This is where your church dresses up and you are back in Bible times. If you have lots of costumes or can easily make them and you're super creative, great. Do a Holy Land adventure. And then they have the third option, which is like a weekend or an evening VBS. It has like 3 days worth of curriculum. Do you want to say something?
So another option that you can do is you can take a summer to do VBS. Midweeks, over the whole summer. So every Wednesday. So if you're doing midweeks, and you can actually do a VBS program with the kids while the parents are in worship. So there's other things. And then I had one more.
It'll come back to you. We'll keep going. Stay with me. So that's group, okay? Like I said, it felt like every member of our church would cringe when I'd say VBS. So I moved away from that. It was just large, intense. But it was really fun, and it was a wonderful experience. The kids loved it, but it did me in almost every summer. So I transitioned into Grow. If you want to toggle over to Grow, Grow is a free curriculum. Free. It does not cost any money. So this one that you're seeing right now is Wonder. It's called I Wonder. And the whole concept is teaching kids to be curious about God. Curiosity, encouraging questions, the exact kind of stuff we're talking about. This particular one, Wonder, I did it 2 summers ago, I think, something like that. And I loved it. It's a 4-day VBS program, and it gives you kind of the basics. It gives you a Bible point for the day, lessons, ideas, some videos with worship. But it's not going to mail you, the group curriculum, Dolly, you've done it, right? It comes in a tin this big with 15 booklets. It is massive. This is all you're going to get. The website, and it has PDFs, and everything is free. Their graphics are free. Their music is free. Everything's free. So this is a great place to start. There's 2 other themes within Grow. I want to say there's like a mystery something one, and then I think there might be a jungle something one. So there's 3 or 4 that are free through Grow. The way they get you is they just have you register as like a Grow partner type thing. And they might email you and be like, would you like to meet with our Grow specialist? And they're great. And I met with her, and there they are. So there's like the deep sea is what I did last summer, which was fun. It was like we turned this room into an ocean, and we had waves, out of tablecloths on the floor. I Wonder was space themed. So we did glow sticks, glow in the dark. We turned all the lights off in here and had like our worship leaders were wearing glow in the dark clothes. It's fun. One of our board members is a worship leader, and she gets up with like head to toe glow paint all over herself. It was awesome. But like wildlife is going to be jungle, on the case is detective. So anyway, these are just some options for VBS. There was one summer where we coordinated with Hope. Well, it wasn't really Hope, it was our YES program, but we had a lot of kids coming in from a more urban setting, and so I chose a different curriculum that was like sports themed, and it was a little bit more accessible for that particular population of kids. So I will tell you, when you choose to go the free route, obviously Oriental Trading, you're a children's ministry, you know what it is. Oriental Trading is where I ordered everything from. Now, Oriental Trading has their own VBS stuff. They don't have curriculum, but they have probably 6 different themes worth of options. So you don't have to purchase from group. Even if you choose group's curriculum, you could go the Oriental Trading route. So please try VBS. I would love to see VBSs all over the world. That would be incredible. We're going to transition. So if you're on the Children's Ministry Task Force, can you come on up? We're going to do our question and answer panel. Listen, I know we have given you way too much this weekend, but when was the last time we got to do this, right? And it'll probably be 2 years before we do it again. So try hard not to get overwhelmed. Try hard to just keep taking in the data. You can process when you get home. You can take the next 6 months to process what you learned this weekend. I know I'm going to. I have stuff that's in my brain right now that I don't even want to begin to unpack. So what we're hoping for this specific time is that you ask things that you care about, things that are important to you, things that would help from different people's experiences versus you emailing one of us or calling one of us. Vicki works with a smaller church. Cindy works with regions, right? Susan works with both a smaller church and a little church plant. So there's several different ones of us represented. Tina's full-time, part-time? Part-time. So before we go any further, Bridget wanted us to ask, and this is not an indictment on you, so don't take it that way, but how many of you are full-time compensated in your churches? Again, this does not mean that you shouldn't all be. We're just curious. Okay, how many of you are part-time compensated by your church? You're getting a part-time salary. Okay, how many of you are a stipend employee? So that means they're going to give you an amount a year. Okay, great. Then how many of you are here on your own dime? You do everything because you love children. You're not getting paid anything. Wow. Okay. We could not love you more.
Yes.
We could not love you more.
You're the heroes.
I just got chills head to toe. You guys are incredible. Thank you for being here. We know that not every church can afford you. That does not mean they shouldn't. That does not mean they can't find the money somewhere. So I hope and pray that 2 years from now, 50% more of you raise your hands. Yep. Like I said, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be paid. It's not an indictment on you or your abilities. We're just curious so we know how to divide resources. If you're in a church where you're paying for yourself and you don't even have a budget, talk to one of the churches that do. There's ways that we can help you. There's ways that we can share with you. I can add another 50 students to my Dig-In account. I can afford that, and we can share. So be willing to be honest about what your needs are. If you need mentorship, tell someone before you leave today, I need more help. If you need more money, if you need more resources, talk to someone who has resources and see if there's not ways to share. Okay?
Yep.
All right, we're going to transition to questions.
I have one comment I remembered.
I'll
Okay.
pass the mic.
While she's doing that, one of the options we had for VBS, because Phoenix is really spread out, so one of the considerations that we talked about was having family-style VBS in a home in a neighborhood. So we provide all the curriculum, we provide all of the supplies, and a family unit takes on VBS and invites their kids' friends and their kids from school and all of that to be more of a neighborhood-style VBS. So that's just another option to throw out, especially if you're trying to pull a large city together to try and be in one location. Sometimes there's an hour drive to the center of a town from each one of them.
Just screen everybody, please. Yep. Okay, first question. So I'll come around. I know I don't have to say that in this room, but okay, I'm going to come around and give you the mic so that you can ask your questions, not because we can't hear each other, but we want the recording to be able to pick up your voice.
Hello, my name is Daniel Guadarrama out of San Diego, California. And my question is in reference to having our kids being prepared to move on to the next level, like elementary to middle school to high school. Is there in your mindsets, have you thought of what should the kid know before they move on? Like, what are the, key markers that you want them to hit or understand about God before moving into middle school per se?
You want to take that one?
Okay. I think I'd start by talking to your youth leaders. Ask them what we're weak in as a congregation. I'd ask them, what would help you position them the best? Is it knowing the books of the Bible? Is it memorizing scripture? Is it having certain foundational things? I think they're the ones who are going to receive our kids, and so sometimes they already know what our kids are weak in and need refining in. But I think from a foundational standpoint, I think what matters most is that kids desire to know God over, and I said this a lot already this weekend, but that is, in my opinion, the most important thing. More important than that they can find Habakkuk or whatever, that they know God, they love God, they know that God loves them. From like a specific framework perspective, all of these curriculums have what they call benchmarks or milestones or suggested kind of things to aim for. And so I might start there too. You guys, what do you think?
Oh, that's great. That's exactly what you're thinking. But I think that one of the things I know across the board that we have been weak in, that we were stronger in the past, our roots came out of the traditional Church of Christ. And, in the children's ministry back 25, 30 years ago, well, when we were in it the first time, and with our babies and our toddlers, which would actually be 38 years ago, but I just shh. Back then the focus was on knowing the Bible. So when they came out of class and into what was the youth ministry, which at that time was honestly pretty weak. Our youth ministry was weak, at least in our church in that time. Children's ministry was much stronger. But they came out knowing their Bible. We had preteen Bible Olympics, and a segment was on their Bible, segment was on concordance, on how to find scriptures, and application. So, I think that's one of the things. I don't think that's the whole enchilada, so to speak, because I think there's a lot that they missed the heart of that growing up. But I do know that says faith comes from hearing the word. And that is a component, one piece of that puzzle is that's where their faith comes from. And so we want to help them know the Bible better, because that is what God is speaking to them directly.
Good afternoon. My name is David Everback. We're from the St. Louis Greater Gateway City Church in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a medium-sized church right now that's actually getting ready to split into regions, and we're getting ready to split off our first region November next weekend. Actually, they're going to have a soft launch. So my question is as we're breaking off into regions, obviously certain regions will have no kids. Some regions may have a lot of kids. When it comes to curriculum, is it wise to make sure that all of our curriculums are the same, or should the curriculums with very little kids have like like she had the 1 day, the 1 week type of curriculum, or should we have everybody on the same type of curriculum?
I think you meet the need of what that region is. So we're very similar in San Diego. We have some very big regions, which directors actually lead one of the biggest children's ministry regions, and I lead the smallest. So the curriculum in Dig In, and one of the things that I've really liked about it over the years is you can tailor it to different sizes. So you can still be teaching the same lesson, the same message, but in many different ways. Like as you saw from Melissa, you could do a take-home kind of packet that could even be taught at home by parents or in house church situations, or you can do different lessons, and pull it together and have centers. You can teach it VBS style. You can even pull it together and teach it as a worship center style. It's incredibly flexible. And I think most curriculums, if you put the work into it or the heart into it, you probably do something similar with that as well. Dig In particular just makes it really easy. Just curriculum too? Does Orange 2 make it easy to be flexible?
It doesn't have that piece where you can like pick and choose directly like the drag and drop, but because there's so much content, you can pick and choose what pieces you want to use. There's more than enough to do, so you could tailor it.
You know, I think, sorry, I'm in the back of the room. I think Bridget would say, because she oversees several regions, she used to have her different regions doing all different things, and she found it hard herself to support them. When everybody was doing the same thing, they could share resources from one church to the other.
Right.
They could share, oh, we had to build a lion. You guys want it? Because you're all doing the same concepts. You maybe not do the exact curriculum. Like, we can both do Dig In, and you might be in Bible in a Year, and I might be in Heart of God, but it's the same concepts.
Yeah, that's what I say. There's a difference between unity and uniformity. Yep. In that with unity and with you're all going the same direction with the same thought process, because not all the different curriculums have different formulas that they move kids through. And so if you're going through this at least the same curriculum chain, maybe not exactly the same class, it'll make it easier, especially if you come together congregationally. Because if you have regions who once a month or every other month come together congregationally, then what do? Because then it causes like, okay, well, we use your curriculum? Do we use that? Then you're training new people. They're all coming together. So it's easier to do the same curriculum even if you're not exactly on the same week.
I think for us, being the only one on staff for children's ministry was a convenient thing, and I felt like I was helping the other sisters or brothers that were taking on their role to be the same thing. I think what would be more important, though, would be that the ride home of the kids in that family all had the same lesson, so the parents, they'd know what the story, the concept, the character trait that they were studying is, and that's what I gear mine towards.
Shall I go? So I definitely want to hear from Melissa, but also you guys may have a thought on this, but you struck me when you were speaking, so that's why I wanted to ask you. You mentioned, I require of my lead teachers, and I think that's a striking phrase, and as someone who is full-time, and these are all people from Orlando that we have great volunteers, so we do ask a lot of them, but I struggle with that. Like, I tend to come from a position of whatever you can give me, I am grateful for, and so I want more, and I think that in my mind, like, if I model it, hopefully I can raise it up and inspire it, but I think that there are some people that need to be called to it, and you said that, and so I wanted to hear, like, if there was a little bit of an evolution to getting there, how is the response to that, and if you guys have any other thoughts on it too.
All I know is with the aprons today, somebody said, do the guys balk at wearing the aprons? And they said, they're required to wear the apron. So that did, it hit me like that.
Yeah, and also that the big guys are used to wearing aprons at Home Depot, so they could get used to wearing aprons in the children's ministries. So
That's what I tell them anyway.
Yep.
It helps that my 6'4", 280-pound husband wears one. That helps. Yeah, when it comes to what we require, I think that's a great question. I think that people will rise to your vision. I think if you have a vision that your children's ministry will convert children's hearts to God, then what we ask them to do, 9 times out of 10, they're going to rise near that. If we ask them to do the bare minimum, they will. If we ask them to stretch themselves a little bit for 3 months, they will. And I have found that when I push too hard, they'll tell me. They're not shy. They'll say, like, I would love to do this, but, and here's what my limitations are. One of the things that I tried to do, and I said this on the tour with the group that I was with today, I really try to make the job as teacher, lead teacher, a relational job. And so I ask more of my coordinators, because they serve year-round, than I ask of my teachers. My teachers, their main job is to love those kids and get to know those kids. My children's worship leader does the heavy lifting on the Bible lessons. So I'm not asking for anything beyond what Jesus expects of them, which is to love children. And when it comes to the particular things that we require, we keep that list very short. You know, we require that you're screened. You know, we require that you come early. There's a few things. But when you have a willing heart, I feel like you're willing to do a little bit more. And like I said, people will push back if they need to, but I'd rather somebody push back a little bit and the majority is raising our program to the next level versus me expecting less and the majority of our program is down here. So I do tend to dream big and ask for a lot, and then people kind of push back. Do you guys want to add? You guys all expect a lot too. Don't act like you don't.
No, I think that's good. I think the one thing that, since we're talking to people who are majority not on staff,
Yeah.
and volunteer, that you may feel like in these settings that you're alone, that you're doing the heavy lifting, that you don't have the support. Maybe you have support of your region leader or your ministry staff. Maybe you feel like that, you rarely see them, and so I would just do a couple of things. One, I would just really pray that God can open the eyes of the ministry people that are in your church, to go back and share some of these things that are things that you have seen and heard, just some ideas of it going, hey guys, I really would like to take our children's ministry to another level. What do you think you guys could provide as support or guidance or whatever? Because honestly, for me, that has made a big difference in the last year, because this is the first year that I felt like I had ministry support with a ministry leader who's sitting right there. So Virginia Weekly moved into Phoenix, and honestly, it was a little hard at first because I wasn't used to a ministry person wanting to be involved in children's ministries. So it was kind of like this, we were coming out of COVID. It was like, so what am I supposed to be doing? What is she going to do? And so we had to figure it out. But it has infused into the children's ministry a difference. And so if you can get buy-in from your ministry leader, your region leader, your congregation leader, whatever you have, is try to start building a partnership with the person that's leading your region.
I want to add to that because I think Susan mentioned this in one of the groups towards the beginning of the conference is you're going to go home with so many ideas, right? You're just brimming and overflowing and dreaming super big. And you're going to process it all when you're back next week, the week after, for the next 6 months probably. But now is the time when our ministries are looking at their budgets for the next year. So all those big dreams, big thoughts, put them on paper. Yep. Make your list. You can overwhelm them with your list and then just say, this is the one thing or two things I would love to incorporate next year so we can get to all of these things one day, right? And just start slowly building in. But this is really the time to have those conversations about kind of what she said. What can we do next year to be better even than this year, okay?
The other thing I would add to Amy is I really try hard to create a culture of gratitude with the teachers, have them in my home. They know they're loved and appreciated, and I think that goes a long way. But the other thing I would say is, I have 3 kids, and, the PTA expects a lot. The soccer team expects a lot. The Girl Scouts expect a lot. The Jewish synagogue expects a lot. When they bar mitzvah their kids, they have to learn, And so I think sometimes we're afraid because we feel like these parents have so much going on, but this is the space that affects eternity versus, PTA would like to take my blood from my body is the truth. So I think people will ask you of a lot. So don't feel like in your space, as long as you're creating gratitude and setting people up to succeed, that you can ask for a lot. Question?
You tied right into what I wanted to ask, which is setting up people to succeed. And often enough, we find volunteer teachers that really want to teach and have no concept of how to come down to a kid's level and not teach an adult lesson. And I need to find tools or resources to help train them because I'm not trained as an educator, so I really don't understand other than trying to build an example, how do I get them to be who they could be as a teacher?
Yeah, that is a really big challenge because I think a lot of people come into volunteering for children's ministry with the picture in their mind that it's glorified babysitting. And I push real hard back and say, if you came here because you thought it was glorified babysitting, you need to change your mindset that this is studying the Bible with future, hopefully, future disciples. So but yeah, the way that they interact with kids, sometimes they need training, they need advice, they need tips, especially if they have a child that's an extra challenge in their class. They need like a toolkit. So trying to provide training for the teachers is really important, and giving them opportunities challenging them to get advice when they don't know what to do, or how to handle kids, and pairing teachers in a class that one maybe is not as strong in that way and another maybe is. That pairing is one of my biggest challenges, trying to figure out, like, okay, this is my list of teachers, who kind of goes well and who kind of will do better with older ones versus younger ones. It's like a Tetris game. But yeah, I think just kind of rallying them to change their mindset and how they talk to the kids and how they show love to the kids makes a really big difference. And somebody else is going to share, but I just didn't want to sneak off. I have to go because I have to fly out. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here.
Bye. We'll miss you. Thank you. Love you. One of the things that you just have to recognize is that as much as a good-hearted person might want to serve in children's ministry, there are people that it's not their skill set. So yes, people can learn. Yes, people can change. Sometimes it takes time. But there are people who it's not their skill set. It's like, taking a square peg, trying to pound it into a round hole, okay? Use those people in other ways. Use those people to collect the crafts. Use those people to usher the children's ministry hallway. Use them in ways that suit their personality, their character, or whatever. Because otherwise, they can feel shame and guilt when because they can either create a problem in the classroom because they're making something bigger than what it should be, as in a disciplinary action. I know a lot of people that came out of the older place in the church has a very different viewpoint towards parenting and children in the classroom than some of the younger generation does. There's much more expectation of obey quickly, completely, with a happy attitude in the older people. Okay? Yes. But we've got to understand that that's not where these kids are right now, and nor should they be. And so it's that aspect of expecting behavior modification rather than glorifying God. So people who are of an older mindset, I have found, either they are growers and learners themselves, and they can grow and change into that, or they can't. And if they can't, I really don't want them in the classroom, because what we're trying to do is change a classroom dynamic. And that's where, love them, but this isn't your strength, and let's find a way for you to serve. That there's all kinds of ways to serve the church. It's not just with children.
And if it's the heart to teach, and you have teachers who can be a great resource in your ministry, they might be people you can pull in to help with teacher training on how to teach a class to children of that particular age bracket. And some of that can just be educating them in where those kids are at developmentally, what they can do and what they cannot do. So look at the heart and their abilities.
Amen. So my question kind of piggybacks on this. What training should we give the teachers, and what kind of training should it be?
Do you want to take that? Because you do a lot of training here.
So do y'all.
Yeah.
Yes. So I do a live Zoom training every rotation. I offer 2 sessions for leads and 2 for assistants. And that's in addition to their screening. And part of their screening process is a video that Chase helps me put together that has all of the logistical training as far as how to deal with incidents, how to deal with allergies, how to deal with evacuating the building. Every teacher watches it, that video. It's comprehensive. You're welcome to share it. Y'all can all share my video. It's on the website. And all our teachers have to watch that. Then all our teachers do a Zoom training with me where I kind of look them in the eyes and make sure, that they're going to be a great asset and they're not, a criminal off the street. In that training, I go through kind of some of the more important aspects of teaching. I talk to them about, affirmative discipline, that we focus on reward-based instruction. I give examples, of how I would approach a situation to make sure that we're not harping on kids. I talk a lot about the culture to set in the classroom. I talk a lot about, like one of the examples I always give in my training is I say, it's, okay, kids, it's time to gather up. And you notice that Johnny and Sally are still playing with the blocks. Affirmative discipline says, wow, Sally, I am so proud of you for coming over to center time when Johnny is still playing with the blocks. But when Johnny hears Sally being praised, he immediately tries to do what Sally's doing. We have the choice as teachers to focus on Johnny or Sally. And if we focus on the positive, and we focus on the reward-based discipline, our classrooms become a positive space. And that is one of the most important things I teach in training, is how to talk to kids, how to talk to a room full of kids that aren't all doing what you want them to do. And so that's one of the things all my teachers kind of learn in that training session. Even campus students, I'll get a teacher who's never held a baby. I'll get a teacher who's never changed a diaper. And so what I do is I walk through the different roles in the classroom. You've got this role, that role, and I'll talk about, usually I say a hygiene person, but that's a diaper changer. And I talk through, this is how we change a diaper. So my trainings last about an hour. They're live. I do them every time. And that's after they've watched the video that they do. But an important part of our training is our supervising team. I've been talking about them a lot today. So if you've been with me, you've heard me say this 100 times. My supervisors are the most important part of my program. My supervisors go into the classrooms every Sunday and help support the teachers. That's an important part of training. The supervisors know the kids. They stay on for years at a time. They serve 1 Sunday a month. And so I have 4 in the building, Family Learning Center, and 4 in the auditorium. They rotate every Sunday. They help train our teachers, because I view training as a long-term process. It's not something that's going to happen in 3 months. You're training somebody to be a great teacher over several years. And so when they come into the, discipleship or come into the campus ministry, we start there. And I mean, this past rotation, I had a brother say, I've never held a baby. Like my whole life, I've never held a baby. And I'm like, so you're not in the nursery, But I put him with the 4th and 5th grade boys, and I trained him. I trained him on what 4th and 5th grade class should look like. And I look at what each teacher who's at that training is teaching, and I talk to them about their class. So I utilize Zoom because people pay better attention when they're in their comfort setting versus like an orientation like my predecessor used to do an orientation at the building every Sunday before that rotation, and people checked out. They stopped listening. So we do the Zoom trainings, and that's been a good fit for me. And then I can record it, so if someone has an emergency, they have to watch the Zoom and then write back to me and tell me that they were trained. But that's just how I do it. Tell me what you guys do.
That's how they do it.
We have a really, really small children's ministry right now. So we have conversations with the people that are coming in. And we kind of do apprentice style as well. So kind of like she has the supervisors, we have resource people. And that resource person is the person putting their head around and looking. And in the past, when we've had a larger ministry, we've had resource people too. And we've had different people for different age groups. And they signed on as lifers. They don't teach necessarily. They're familiar with the kids. They've been in the classroom at some point. And they've become experts in that class. We've noticed them, and they've just been amazing. And they can teach if they want, but we don't require that of them all the time. But they're popping in and out all the time, just checking in, supporting the teachers, and they really get to know the kids that way anyway as well. But they're experts in whatever that age bracket is. And we have special needs resources too, so anybody that we know who works in special ed, we know that we can tap on them to support us, whether it's teaching the children in the classroom about what the disabilities are in the room without pinpointing names or pointing kids out, or whether it's just coming in to support and help a child that the teacher needs assistance and figuring out how to work with that child and what works best for them.
I really jumped really quickly to say that's what we do, and I'm not Melissa, so that's not what we do. But we do orientation, and we do have special needs volunteers that take care of, mentor the children. Buddies, well, see, and that's the thing, in your regions, they're not buddies they're buddies on your side, they're not buddies on my side. Yeah, so that's the differences. Our rotations are different. I tried allowed something to happen differently, that our teachers teach something that I didn't think I would ever agree to. Our teachers teach once a month. And so everyone that teaches on the first Sunday of the month teaches the first Sunday of every month in our region. So I don't have a rotation every quarter for that group, because they were oriented and they teach the whole year. Because I figured that we were having a struggle getting volunteers, and so teaching 13 weeks straight was difficult. And so I thought, okay, well then you teach the first Sunday of every month for the rest of your life.
That's not difficult at all.
13 Sundays a year, or the first Sunday of the month for the rest of your life. And that's... Mike, what do we do when there's a fifth Sunday? There should, there should be a fifth, there should be that fifth rotation. So we do different things for that fifth. But also, we have coordinators that work with that group of teachers. And it's something that's in process right now that we're trying to do, is to make the relationship with the coordinators and those teachers. I mean, everything is a work in progress. So I sit here, I've done this forever, and sit here and listen to Melissa and think, wow. And do we need to, just like in VBS, do we need to remind you that you have this facility to do VBS?
I know.
And I know you know that, and that's just such a struggle for my heart. But yes, as we're all figuring it out, and someday it will look like Melissa's, because we're learning from Melissa.
I think we've tried 3 months, we've tried 4 months, we've tried every other month, we've tried, this first week, the one rotation I thought we had Team Peace, Team Love, Team Joy, and it was the same kind of thing. It was 1 month, you served once a quarter, and for the rest of your life. We had a devotional, it said this is, and they realistically, the only time people came off is when they were having babies or they had illness, because they really did have the heart to serve, but 3 months was just too long for them. And so I think my point is, no matter what, do what works for your church and your people. No rotation is right, no rotation is wrong. If it works for you and it works for your group and people are enjoying it and people don't feel burned out and you don't feel, here's the thing, that you don't feel burned out chasing those teachers. See, if you have to do a new rotation every single time, unless you have a good setup, and Melissa has a great setup at what she uses, because if they teach in the fall of last year, she contacts them the fall of this year, and but if you're like sometimes where I know we have chased the last 5 or 6 people down to the week before, and the regions are trying to, find people, and they're up on stage begging people, that system doesn't work. Okay? So if it's frustrating to you to get those volunteers, then let's start looking to something else. But do what works for your church, do what works for your people, do what works for you.
I want to add something to that, because a lot of our legislation in California has changed. So there's no way we can chase someone down until the last week if they haven't been screened. Because our screening process actually can take a month. Like, how long does it take you guys to screen somebody? If they do their part. Mm-hmm. Right, so we're having to do live scans so that it's got to be scheduled. They've got to do videos online that they have to watch, sign off, take a test. Yeah. Yep, following up, all the phone calls. So it can take, it's a lot of work. Like, they put a lot of work into it. Yeah. Yeah. It's federal.
Yeah, it's a different type of federal background check that they actually, have to go into a specific location and get their fingerprints scanned, and then they send them off to the federal. They do the same thing like for DPS licensing and things like that for government.
I do.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on, I forgot what it was. Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm Stephanie from St. Louis with David. And so part of the question was answered, but I was wanting to hear from the others as well. Like, what is your rotation schedule? Because whatever we're doing monthly right now, because we did 3 months several years ago, and we went to monthly, and that worked for a while. But we're really having a hard time with volunteers. So I liked what you said. Like, if you're struggling to find volunteers, then maybe what you're doing isn't working. So it might be time for us to try something else. And so I was kind of wondering more ideas on what other rotations people use. And then my other question is on ratios for such as, like with the older kids, it's easier like 2 to, I don't know, whatever, 10 to 15 or whatever people use. But for your infants, we're from the state of Missouri, so the ratio is 1 to 4 for daycares, but our teachers, that's hard, 4 babies to 1 person. So we're just trying to get that figured out within our policies, because we're trying to hear what the teachers are saying, but also go with what the leaders, the ministry leaders want. So
Right. So here's the thing. If you're a teacher and you have an emergency, and how many babies can you take out in an emergency? Okay. So no matter what the state says, you have got to go with what makes sense and is safety wise. Now, the other thing is Melissa has pack and plays on wheels, and okay, well, maybe you can take out more than 2 babies in that scenario, but in most scenarios, you can hold 2 babies in your arms and walk out the door in an emergency. That's really the scenario you have to look at, okay? Is that how many toddlers, are you going to be able to corral out a door, okay? You can look at different ratios that the different churches have had. The state is not going to be our guideline. That is just way too loose. We went on a tour today, and we talked about how many kids were in a room or whatever. She said, "Oh yeah, the fire department came in to look at our ratios, and they said, oh yeah, you could have 100 people in this room." Well, there's no way that 3 or 4 teachers are going to take care of 100 kids. So if we use the government as our measuring stick, our standard, we're not going to be able to give the quality of education. See, that's the other part of it. You got to talk to the leaders about what's the quality of care and the quality of education, okay? I think 2 in a classroom is not the minimum. 3 in a classroom is the absolute minimum in a classroom. Because if you have to leave, that means that you don't have anybody to relieve a teacher to go to the bathroom, and that if you're in a classroom that has children that has to go to the restroom, you don't have safety in the classroom. Now you're leaving. You have 2 teachers in the classroom, and they have to take a kid to the bathroom. What do you do? So, there's ways that you can do it with 3, but 3 is the minimum, because 3 is if one stands at the door and another stands at the door, and just because that's what maybe the ministry thinks, they haven't thought through it logistically. Yeah, they don't know what they don't know. So maybe they don't have young children. Maybe they don't have not really been involved in it. That's why you want your ministry staff actually to work through a rotation and walk in your shoes and see what you're doing, because that's super important. Your other question, the first question was if it isn't working for, okay, yeah, so, the rotation. So it's how you frame a month at a time. See, if you frame a month at a time as, hey, you're just going to work 1 month, then you're going to have that issue every month. But if you frame it, you're going to work, every once a quarter, first, of the month for 2 years, then that's a different framework, and they're going to expect that they're going to work the first month of a new quarter. So it's the expectation that you lay out that can maybe make it more successful, because no matter whether you do weekly, monthly, or quarterly, you're going to have the same thing unless you lay out a longer plan.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, if you were in my 3+ years ministry class, you already heard this. One of my favorite strategies in children's ministry is stealing, spying and stealing. I belong to 3 local churches in Marietta. 3. They think I believe their denomination. I do not. But I do check my kids in, and I do walk around, and I do learn, and I ask if I can take some ideas. They'll give you a lot of things and a lot of great ideas. When I went to visit the North Point Church here in Atlanta, thousands and thousands and thousands of members, I went backstage, and I talked to them about their program, and I was like, yeah, I do 3-month rotations. And they were like, what? 3 months? We ask for a 3-year commitment. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I cannot picture any disciple in our church saying, take me out of Sunday service for 3 years. It's not a matter of the perfect system. It's the way that you're going to implement that system to be successful. Their theory is they give their teachers so few responsibilities. Now, they have billions, okay? So they feed their teachers a catered dinner every night, every Sunday night. So yeah, we're talking about a whole different situation, but that's why I steal their ideas, because they've already, I spy and I steal. No, but they feed their teachers. They have small group leaders who do the teaching. So a teacher is basically a relationship and a volunteer. So it's not hard to do that because you're not being asked to do very much. So it makes sense when you look at what they do at North Point, which is a subsidiary of the Buckhead Church, which is Andy Stanley's, big fellowship thing. But anyway, I would just say that you might think a month is perfect. I might think 3 months is perfect. Honestly, there is no perfect. And I've tried 4 months. I've tried 6 months. What I won't do is 1 month, because I'm screening these people every month. It would drive me crazy. But I think that whatever you decide, get input from somebody else who does children's ministry and talk about what your weaknesses are as a church and your ministry, and they might be able to help you think of creative options for what might work better in your situation. The reason I like 3 months is because I think especially babies and toddlers post-COVID don't do well when they see a new face every week. And that's just why I do it. I felt like every week we would have to get these babies acclimated all over again. They'd be crying for the first 30 minutes. The teachers would be pulling their hairs out. So for us, a 3-month rotation was like just about the right amount of time before they were ready to, okay, we want to go back to church. But again, my supervisors are only serving 1 Sunday a month for years at a time. So I have a supervisor today. Some of you met Heidi. She's been here for 15 years supervising. So because it's 1 Sunday a month, she does the first Sunday of every month. So you figure out what works best for you, hear all the different varieties, and then get input from the people who do children's ministry in your space. I mean, I've had parents tell me, if you move to 4 months, I don't want to teach. I cannot do 4 months. I've had some parents tell me I would rather teach the first Sunday of the month, like what Cindy does. So I get input, get feedback. There is no perfect solution.
Yeah, and like I said, I never thought I would, agree to that, and it works. And to remember back, I mean, we spent our whole life in Kingdom Kids, teaching kids because we had kids. And that's another thing that I've really had expectation if you're a parent, teaching the joy of being in there with your children, or if you're a teacher and you teach 300 and whatever other days of the year, we still need you because it's important, eternal perspective. What helped with the once a month was because in Kingdom Kids, I think, whether it's our character or whether we allow this to happen to us, it's not where people want to be. They want to be in worship. They want to usher. They want whatever. So I was very creative in setting teachers that were singers. Okay, you give me one, and then the church has 3 weeks to choose you to be on stage or to usher. So there again, it's that community of working together.
And I've always said if you make the job of teaching very simple and very rewarding, it's easier to recruit because they don't feel overwhelmed or out of their skill set. 2 quick things I'd say that help with recruiting. 1, I'm a part of every new member orientation. So we have new member orientations at North River. I come, I introduce myself, and when I meet one, I say, we can't wait to get you involved in children's ministry. How would you like to serve? What's your skill set? Oh, you have a worship background. Great. Let's go ahead and get you registered to serve in 6 months to, be right there in our program, ready to go. I'm working all the time. I go to our campus devotionals once a quarter. I get up in front of the campus students. I talk about the mission of winning souls, even if they're 6 months old. Those are just little simple things that I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to capture the hearts in a different way. The front of the room, the stage does not do it. People check out, they see me coming, they run the other way. So I've tried to build relationships with campus students. We have campus kids in our home every month. And I'm like, hey, I noticed that you're into whatever. That translates into this part of ways you could serve our ministry. I build relationships. I'm looking for ways. So when it comes to recruiting, I know nobody has a whole battery of recruit. I mean, I think I have a great program, but I just had to hunt down 3 more teachers. I started rotation this Wednesday. I had to hunt them down. It was not easy. Nobody has the perfect solution here. But I do think the easier you make it, the more of a joy it is, the less challenges you get in recruiting. Was there a hand over here, or did I dream that? Oh, okay.
Okay. While she's walking over there, I'm gonna share one thing that I don't think we touched on with recruiting. What I found the easiest time to recruit somebody was right after they finished children's ministry. And I looked for those people that really enjoyed it and had a great experience and were just loving the kids. And they were usually willing to sign up for the next year, same rotation. And so we had these constant teachers that came in, because we did 3-month rotations back then, and they did the first 3 months of the year or the second 3 months, but I let them choose their time slot. I told them, you got the first pick of next year, what do you want? And that really helped too.
My name's Danielle, and we are in Arkansas. So we recently switched to a different program from background checks. We're going through Tidely now, and there are so many different options for tiers of background checks. And I think the lesson that you gave on the security just made me wonder, because I think what we were doing CIA before, and I think it was the bare minimum, and I think that it was never a question of okay, I mean, we kind of wondered, but this is what they were doing before, so we just kept along with it. But now that we're doing Tidely, and there's 4 or 5 different options, I'm kind of oh my goodness, which one do we pick? So I don't want to pick the cheapest because it's probably not the best one, but I don't want to get the most expensive or I'll probably get denied. So do you understand what the differences are and which one we should be doing?
I do. So we used to use CCB, which made it a little bit plainer. They were connected with Protect My Ministry. So if you're using CCB as your CMS, if anybody knows what that is, but a lot of the churches were using that, and they were connected with Protect My Ministry. And so they were a little bit more self-explanatory than Tidely and Checker are about what is required, which actually when we did the beta testing for Checker, I told them, I said, you don't have enough information for someone to make that choice on the website. But here's basically what it is. If you look there's a map in the websites that tell you where your particular state reports to, okay? So if you live in a state, and I'll use an example for Arizona, all counties in Arizona report to their criminal background to the federal database, except for Pinal County. So one county in the state of Arizona does not report to the federal government. So that means, for the most part, when I'm running a background check in Arizona, I can run a basic background check, but it will exclude Pinal County if I do that, okay? Now, there are a lot of states, like, on my background check it says, what other states have you lived in, okay? So I ask them, they list the states. And what I know is I know what states report federal and what states report. So it's not a one-size-fits-all about what I ask the background check. I may do a basic for someone I know that's been in Arizona for their whole life, or in Maricopa County for their whole life, and I might do a plus for someone I know that's been in New York or that's been in New Jersey, places that don't report. And then, even then, there are some states that do not have county records in it. So that's why background checks are great, but they're only going to catch a certain percentage of it. Is it a great tool? Yes. But honestly, if we're saying 3% are the ones who get caught, 97% are the ones that you're going to have to watch for just in your fellowship, okay? Because I believe the Holy Spirit prompts us in these situations. Because there are people I said, they just can't serve. Their interview was weird, the conversation, how they present themselves. I'm like, they can serve in other ways, but not with children. So the aspect is check and see where people have been and what states and what counties. And it's hard when you get, because you want to hit that button and say background check and know that and be confident what it is, but you can't. So there's the levels of basic, there's basic plus motor vehicle reports. Hopefully your motor vehicle reporting, anyone who's in your teen volunteer ministry, that you get the motor vehicle reports for people who are teen volunteers, teen interns, etc. Anyone who's on staff, you should run their MBR. And then you should have a program to be able to say, this teen volunteer shouldn't be driving our teens, and what that criteria is. So, it's bigger than just children's ministry, but because it goes into the youth ministry, but that's kind of what it is. There's a guide that says what states report where, and you have to know before you run those background checks.
Yeah, and you know what I'm about to say, but background checks are going to tell you people were convicted of a crime. How many people are never reported in this specific arena? So what I provide every teacher is what's called a policy checklist. It is a one-page document that has an abbreviated version of every one of my policies. And they read it and they sign it. And they do that every time they teach. That tells me you know my rules and you said you'd follow them. So if someone is a predator, they don't like me. They don't like my program because I have their signature saying they're not going to do anything that they shouldn't do. And it includes things like upstanding, behaving as Jesus would. I mean, you can create more. Certain states restrict what you can ask. But when you're asking members, you can utilize the scriptures and utilize the character of Jesus to ask questions in creative ways and find out what you need to find out. One of the questions I put on my application is, have you ever been dismissed from Camp Swamp as a volunteer? It just lets me know if there was a problem. Have you ever been dismissed from volunteering with children? Things like that will tell you what you need to know. Now, of course, if someone wants to lie, they're going to lie. Yeah. But let's not rely on background checks to keep our kids safe.
Right.
Question over here.
We also ask if you've been disciplined in your line of work with children, if you've had any appropriate social contact with children, as in with the social media stuff. Have you ever been accused of having social media contact with minors? So there's those questions. But I think, as well as what Melissa said, is that we just have to be vigilant, and God will move, God will say. But here's the other thing: is keep great records. Keep records of who's applied. Keep great records of who's been in the classroom. Digitize everything. Make it to where it's searchable. You don't want to have to go through those boxes of records from 15 years ago to try and prove somebody was or was not in the classroom. I did that. Somebody was arrested and has been jailed, but I had to go back and see he lied on his form, but he was never in the classroom. And so those are the things you want to try and prevent, because you don't want to have to dig through all those moldy records.
And working with your counsel, lawyer in the board, because we can't ask if you're accused in Orlando or in Florida. You have to be convicted, so an accusation doesn't count.
Hello, my name is Dinora, and I am from the San Diego Church. So my question is, does anyone provide children's ministry during the week for a devotional? And if so, do you recruit teachers specifically for devotional? Yes, midweek.
We don't have midweek in our region right now. We're part of San Diego, but in the past, when I've ran children's ministries that have a midweek and a Sunday, we had 2 separate sets of teachers. So we had midweek teachers and Sunday teachers. And you can run it any way you want, but yeah, we always had 2 different sets.
Again, it's not one size fits all. It's whatever works. You can have separate teams. You can have one, if you're doing, one a month, you can do alternating. So if you have, the first month of that you have, and then they serve second month in midweeks. So again, it's whatever works for your group, separate teams, alternating teams, all screened. No unscreened workers with the children ever.
Yeah, of course.
And to have a strict volunteer or, walk-through policy, so that no one can just walk into your children's ministry, that if someone's in your children's ministry, they have a shadow with them, and that, that it's very clear that they know who is appropriate to be in children's ministry. Yeah.
Melissa Birch from Virginia has some feedback for you about midweek.
I just wanted to share what we do. I was having trouble getting volunteers for midweek. So I've background checked our entire region, and every house church serves a midweek. So they take it, and it's up to them whether they do family, devotional style or whatever, but still the same protocols, but it's just taking it out of my hands to find volunteers for those weeks.
I know for us, we went midweek this Wednesday. We don't have them every Wednesday. They're often the first Wednesday of the month. We focus on fellowship and friendship in a midweek setting. We do not teach full curriculum in a midweek setting. So we'll do our memory verse, and then we'll have discussion questions for the kids, which I pull right from group. So for our midweek environment, if it's once a month, we ask our Sunday teachers who are available to serve on Wednesday night, because they're already screened. When I was doing Wednesdays every night, I had a Wednesday team and a Sunday team, or every month. I had 2 different teams, and I had servers who would serve on the Wednesdays, and then those who would do the Sundays. But like she said, everyone has to figure out what works best for them. I think we're about ready to wrap it up. We've been here for a while. I know you guys are tired. I'm exhausted. Why don't we end our time with some prayer? And I think it would be really beneficial to pray with who you're at your table with. So let's think specifically about begging God for the souls of our kids, and also praying about the vision that we have, the ideas we have, implementing those ideas when we get back home, and asking God to move. So if you could just turn right now to those at your table. And if you only have 3 and you want to join the 2, or if you guys want to join them, let's make sure we keep all this before God before we close out our conference.